welcome to Black Ribbon Warrior podcast, where we're talking about our journey through stage 4 metastatic melanoma cancer. We hit our milestone last week, episode 10, so we kind of celebrated briefly with that. Um, this week, episode 11, we were kind of kicking around topics, and so I was looking on Instagram because there is some Instagram um, pages that or hashtags, I would say, that I do kind of follow. And um, one of them brought up the the dreaded term scan anxiety, and it dawned on me today. I've noticed I've been more tired. I've been up moving, but I've been more tired. Sleep's interrupted at night. I'm up two or three times in the night, so I don't know. I take melatonin. I got the earplugs in, so it's silent. And it's not too hot. It's not too cold. I just wake up, and I'm not sure what it is. But then, today I was doing my normal stuff, and yesterday was walk day, but it was like 45 degrees and raining, like a steady drizzle rain. So I was like, like to where you need your windshield wipers. So I said, we'll put it off today and we'll hit it tomorrow. Today was tomorrow. And we're out walking, and I mean, the dogs are excited. The dogs are excited. And they want to stop, and they want to fumigate or spread their scent every 5 steps. So it's kind of annoying. And I noticed I was starting to like lose my temper, and we're not even a quarter of the walk in. And we're doing about anywhere from a mile to a mile and a quarter in our walks. So I'm like, this is going to take forever. And I got a podcast playing in my head, in my earphones. So it's not all bad, but it's just I want to go. But then when the big dog, our lab, he's about what, 70, 75 pounds.
Yeah, he's 65 to 70, I think, at his last vet appointment.
So he wants to lead the pack, and he wants to pull. He wants to pull, and it's just annoying. And I was just on edge today. I don't know. I was just on edge, and so I, I don't know. So when mom comes downstairs from work, and we're talking about what we want to talk about tonight, and I'm looking on Instagram through these some of these hashtags and the pages that I look at, and I kind of flip back through my page, and it was middle August uh, when I announced it on Instagram about being nervous and everything's kind of just hit and everything, and it, and so the scan anxiety came up as one of the um, hashtags, whatever, post, and that's a real thing. I didn't know anything about it until diagnosis, but I've kind of gotten off track. I'm joined by my lovely wife.
Hi.
Hi, honey. Sorry,
It's fine.
I introduced you a little late.
You're fine.
What I'm noticing is if I have a thought, I got to roll with it, or I'm gonna lose it. Um, Today's one of those days. This last week's been kind of in and out, um, kind of rough mentally, and like I said, today it dawned on me that, brother, you got scan anxiety. It's building. You don't notice it, like it's not coming on like an anxiety attack where you're having trouble breathing, but it's just the
Your mind's thinking about it.
yeah, it's like a latent anxiety. So like it's going on in the back of your head, which is a bad spot for me because that's where I had surgery. So
The surgery is actually in the top of your head,
on the back top.
like
So
parietal.
yes, so that's kind of a still under construction area. So you
The
got
area is doing fine.
it's doing fine, but it's still that's where all the construction happened. So I think it's a latent scan anxiety. Um, I was also having some, I don't know, my blood sugar was kind of not all over the place, but so I got a new meter, and the meter, because my thyroid is high, my sugar runs higher, like in the 150s to 170s, 180s as a norm. 150s are low. So I got this new meter, and it's a continuous meter, and I'm like, all right, cool, this is awesome. Open it up. Oh, hey, I'm into 160. I need to slow down a little bit. I need to exercise a little more, whatever. Then I started getting into the 120s, which with my thyroid being on the high,
And this is your diagnosis. We haven't heard this from your doctor.
the last blood work that I had, my number was high,
Right.
and that's typical what we see. So that blood work will actually, I'll be getting new blood work coming up in a couple of weeks, and I think that's where my scan anxiety is. It's not up in the forefront because I'm not thinking about it, but it's my body knows, my mind knows. It's kind of like that, like you need an oil change. You just got this feeling that you need an oil change, and you're like, oh wow, I'm like 3,000 miles past my oil change. Oops. That's kind of like that feeling is. You get that feeling like something's coming up, but you just don't know. So scan anxiety, that was a real thing, and that was a new term for me. I don't think I understood it until after the radiation.
Okay. I don't
And
know. I was anxious through all of it.
yeah, but I don't think I understood, like, because it was a term that was mentioned, and I'd seen it on the different posts and stuff like that, and on Instagram, and I was kind of like, okay. And the nurse had said something, and of course, things didn't register right away. It took a while to register, and then it was that first set of scans after, like, right before we started therapy. When we had to do the drugs, that then I started going, oh shit. You mean it could be worse?
See, I think I was anxious from the beginning all the way through.
Yeah.
And I didn't get really anxious about your scans until we had stopped the oral medicine and we were doing a scan before you started immunotherapy. I think that's when it
Yeah.
first bothered me because up until that point, I was high anxiety all the way through
Yeah. I think
because it was just one thing after another, after another, after another.
I think that's when mine. That's when I understood it. And it's not like you. And it's hard to say. It's not like you understand it. I mean, you've heard it. You know what it is.
But you felt it.
But
That was the first you felt it.
in that moment, it was like at the end of Roger Rabbit when the sun comes out and the show tunes are singing, and it's like, ah, yeah, that was the moment, and I was like, I get it. I wholeheartedly get it. And some people deal with it differently. We just kind of, evidently, my initial trigger is bad mood, short tempered. I don't like get towards people. The dogs take the brunt of it because I'm with them a lot.
You just get short, and we can recognize within minutes. Like you're not nasty, mean short. It's it's completely different. It's we can ask a question and your answer is clipped. and your tone is clipped, and we know, okay, something's going on. This has created a bad day.
Yeah. And there's days where you wake up and you're already there.
And like we've said, it happened over the week. We were talking to Pay, and I said, "Oh my goodness!" And you looked at us like, "What?"
And I told him, I said, I don't mean it that way. I didn't
And
realize it. And I was talking to my dad last week, and he said, "Man, get off your soapbox for a minute. I didn't mean to put you on one." I was like, "Whoa, whoa, what do you mean?" He's like, "Yeah, you're going on a rant." And I was like, "I didn't mean to do that. I didn't. Well, I meant to have a casual conversation, and I guess the tone of my voice had changed, and
well, it's not
the
just
sentences had became shorter, and it was kind of like I was venting, ranting, or whatever, and that wasn't. I didn't realize I was doing that.
it's not like your tone. It is, you get louder, and it's like you find the need to make a point
When there's no point.
when there's, yeah, when you're just like you're trying to be heard, and you just get louder and louder, and then you look at us with this look, and I'm like, oh, okay, kind of like we're dumb
So
because we're
it's
not on the same page as your rant.
so it's almost like a child throwing a temper tantrum,
Yeah, like you could take
and
it wrong. Like you,
yeah,
you took what I asked about the yard wrong. I wasn't meaning anything ugly,
but and at that moment, I mean,
and you took it
it was
that
like,
I was being rude, and I was
yep,
being ugly, and I was being demanding, and I was just asking a question.
yeah, and it was like stepping on a booby trap. I mean,
There was no coming back. There was
yeah.
nowhere for me to go with it. I just kind of said okay, and I shut up and I walked away. I just let you be.
So I think with this scanner, and and I'm looking at my blood sugars, and I'm like, okay, I was in the 119 when I was really having a hard. I couldn't focus. I mean, it was bad. And if my normal is between 150 170, with the thyroid being at a 9 where it was the last time I was at the doctor, then a 119 is equivalent to like an 70 or an 80. Like, you're
I
low.
love how you make these numbers up for yourself. You make up the situation to make it work for you, in a sense.
But it's right. I mean,
Well, I
my
mean,
my
this is
sugar was,
this is a trend we see,
yeah,
but we don't know for sure that the thyroid being up causes the blood sugar to be up.
every time.
It's a trend,
Yeah,
but they've never said, well, that is because.
yeah. The
We just know the trend.
the oncologist has said that can happen,
But
and
we
it does
also
happen,
know
but it's
that
not.
your blood sugar goes up with stress,
Yes.
your blood sugar goes up with when you're sick, your blood sugar goes up when you're trying to fight something, your blood sugar goes up
Yeah, your sugar's up and down all over the
just
place.
kind of randomly. So,
But when I'm consistently seeing the 150 to 170s,
I'm so sorry.
when I'm consistently seeing those 150 to 170s as a norm, when I'm really watching what I'm eating and really, focused in on it, then okay, that's my norm. And then they say, oh, your thyroid's at a 9. Okay, well, that makes sense. But then when my thyroid's at like a 2 or 3, then I'm back to the
Right,
120s, 130s, which is the trend I have seen.
right.
You don't really see the trend because I don't share all the numbers with you,
No, you only.
but that's the trend I see. So anyway, so looking at the scanner and continuous monitor, I'd be like, oh, I'm at a 150. I need to
No,
like chill out, and
and
then
I wonder if having access to it all the time is making you more anxious about your number, and therefore your number is going up
well,
because your body feels the stress.
I think it's more that I have access to it. Like you can see how many times you've checked it a day,
Hmm.
how many times you've gone to the app, and on average, 15 to 18 times a day.
Okay, maybe you just need to do it like twice.
So yeah, that's where I was like,
Because I bet
yeah.
you're causing your own stress. Like because you're like, why is it doing this? Why is this happening? Why is this? Why?
Well, and I know
And
what's going on, and then it's neat to see because it comes up on the graph, and it is neat to see that. Oh, I had this for lunch. 2 hours later, let me check it, and I look, and here's where I was, and there was no spike. I'm like, yes. But then I have a little something else, and there's a huge spike.
I just wonder though if
But
you're psyching yourself out and creating stress
I think that's
that is also impacting your numbers
I
in a negative
I
way.
think because I don't want to say hyper focused, but more focused
I
on
think hyper focused is a word. It's
um,
appropriate here.
in trying to say, you know what, if I have no sugar and I keep my sugar numbers under control, maybe the cancer will stay at bay. It's melanoma, it's cancer. It's going to give me the middle finger any way it wants, anytime it wants. That's the reality that I have to live in.
Hmm.
But I saw that's the hard that's a hard lesson that I've been learning this week. And so like Pay was in and she's like, Pops, you're all over the place. And I was like, well, I got this new meter and I was explaining to her and the meter's really cool. I really like it. And she's like, okay. I said, but I'm like all over the place because of the I'm like seeing the numbers and actually liking the numbers. So it's like you want to stay there. But I think that ties into the scan anxiety, which is just anxiety around your scans. It's a nervous thing. And when I say talk to the doctor every time, he's like, so how you doing? I was like, well, I was a bit nervous to see what these results are. He goes, why? You've been doing great. I'm like, it's just a thing, man. You get the girls get their prom pictures and they want to see what the pictures. It's like I can't wait to see them. I can't wait to see them. It's kind of the same thing. I can't wait to see them because I don't want to see anything in red.
Right.
I want to see black and white and him say that looked good.
And you and I, we handle it differently. Like we do most things. Like you get like this.
I try to shut in, and I also that's what I normally do is I try to shut in and shut out. But then when you talk to me, I'm very, very
Irritable.
irritable.
And I go a little high guard and I don't sleep well.
Yes, and when she doesn't sleep well, guess who else doesn't sleep well?
Oh, many nights, like before your scan, I start to sleep. And about 2 o'clock, I'm like, I'm done. And I go downstairs. And I stay down there and I stay up and I watch a movie or I read a book or I do something because I can't focus
Yep.
because I know we're doing scans. And again, we've talked about how I get the lab results before.
Yeah, usually while we're sitting in the office.
I get your scan results before too.
Yeah.
And so again, it's one of those things that, like the beginning of this, I was the first one who knew,
So this is
and
we are
I was the first one who told you about the tumor, and I was the first one who told you it was in your brain, and so I get all of your scan results
and
almost before you do.
we're 2 weeks out from we're 14 days out
Exactly. Yeah.
out from scans. So it was while I was walking the dogs today that I'm like ready to throw my hands up and just turn around and go back home. We hadn't even made it 100 yards out the door, and I was like, I was done. And the little voice in my head said, "Scan anxiety." Huh. Huh. And I kind of thought about that while I was listening, halfway listening to this true crime podcast, and and it all made sense. That's why I'm on edge. That's why I'm nothing's making sense. Nothing uh, wants to, like I don't want to go do things. Like I'm
Your
putting,
motivation's down.
yeah, yeah, and that's 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 been a tough realization the last hour and a half. So, but ways to deal with it, I have no idea. I mean, this is
Well,
how we've been doing it.
you have to just keep remembering that as much as it's hard for us to accept that your path is already chosen and
Yeah.
nothing we're going to do between now and then is going to change what that scan says. And we're going to handle whatever that outcome is. I mean, it's not going to change
One thing that
our
I've
path.
one thing that I've been telling the girls, and one of the guys I used to work with, he would call me and we'd chat for a while, and he's like, dude, your testimony is top notch, and I'm like, yeah, but I don't know how to relay it. I don't know, and so doing this podcast has been a therapy for us as far as like couples therapy, I reckon. Is but much closer as we're going to get to it. I mean, it's been good for us to open up and talk about it and share our experiences. Kind of open up, show. I don't want to say fears because it was already in my brain, and I had to stand in front of a dude with a flashlight checking every crevice of my body. There's not much left to fear.
I think there's a whole lot to fear, but
um,
I love that you don't think there is. I
well,
have fear.
yeah, you. So my fears are different than yours because if
Hmm.
tomorrow's my last day, you've got to go on.
Hmm.
So so it's different. Um, had I had to do this alone, I don't think that it would have been as successful. I really don't.
Do you
So
think,
yeah, you honey.
yay me, do you think you would have handled it as well if our situation was reversed?
I
Or
would have.
would you have been lost in the very beginning?
Yeah, I would have been lost, and I probably would have shut down, and I would have just tried to do and maintain 40 hours a week and doing what I was doing whatever needed to be done. I mean, I would have tried to work through it, like actually like go to work 40, 60 hours that I was working, the off shifts to. I mean, that's the way we've always. That's the way that I've always handled tough situations. Is you just put your head down, you go to work, and you try to work through it slash past it without being present to actually work on the situation.
So you would have left me alone.
No, the kids would have been there. I mean, I was already on night shift, and
You
in
were on
fact,
second, weren't you?
I had just gotten the second shift, and
Maybe worked
yeah,
a month or two in second shift. It wasn't very long, I don't
it was
feel.
kind of an overlapping second to third. There was a lot of morning nights I left at 3 in the morning instead of 11:30. But anyway, that's probably more than likely that's what it would have happened. Is whenever my stress gets high, I just pick up more things to do and try to keep occupied and not actually deal with the situation. Um, to be present, but not whole or 100% present. Does that make sense? So like I
Hmm.
would be there for whatever you needed, but I would also be
Do you think you could have handled all the paperwork and all the stuff?
shit. No, I mean if I'd have had to do it,
I'm
I
just
would have had to
saying.
do it, but there's no way. Just the other
I
day,
mean, honestly, you don't even know the passwords to the bank accounts. I don't know if you could even.
no, no, we would be completely screwed. There's There's no doubt. There's no doubt. Like I would have been locked out of everything. I barely know the password to the laptop to turn this thing on.
Like I don't know if you even like know how we pay our bills. Like where you
Yeah.
go to pay our bills.
When she tells me, "Hey, we got to go to the bank to like," just the other day, our daughter took the card and went to Dunkin' Donuts and got some coffee. They double charged us. Well, of course, I don't know. Well, mom tells me, "Hey, here's a screenshot. You got to call them. Use the number on the back of the card. Call them. Tell them they double charge you. Okay, whatever." Now, me, I would have waited till the next day and went into the bank and talked to the teller lady and done it right there. But no, you got to do it over the phone. Okay, let me tell you.
Well, you could have gone in. I didn't care how you did it.
The
I
impression I
just
got was you have to use this number and
I just
you have to call. Now, the way she meant it was you individually person need to handle this.
yes.
But because she can't make that phone call because she's working now those hours. So in my shattered thought process, um, it is I have to make this call, and I can only do it over the phone. I can't make like go in and handle it. So that was the lady was super nice once I got one that spoke English.
Lee.
I'm I don't deal with people like I just don't do like tellers and all that like calling insurance. I don't I try not to handle that. The last lady I talked to was terrible. Her accent was so thick that it was hard to hear and make out her broken English for me to understand. It really was. And this lady was the first lady was I mean the first thing was all automated. And then I'm finally like they're like, "Do you want to set up voice recognition?" No, I want to fix this problem. Well, say yes if you want voice recognition. No. Okay. Would you like voice recognition in Spanish? No. Then finally I was like, "You know what? Stop. Give me a give me customer service." And that wasn't the question that they asked. So it took a few minutes, several more tries of just give me customer service because it was all automated and you got to talk to them. And this is not me at all. And so my frustration is starting to build. And finally, they put me on hold. They're like, "We'll call you back in 30 minutes." I was like, "I'm on the phone now." If I wanted to call back in 30 minutes, I'd put in something that said, "Hey, call me back in 30." I don't want that. I want to talk about it now. So then they put me on hold, and the whole time it'd be the elevator music, and then it would go into, "Please hold, everybody's busy. Please hold, everybody's busy." Nonstop, nonstop. It took about 5 minutes, but it seemed like hours. But that lady was super nice, um, super nice, and she handled it really fine and everything. But
Well, I
that
guess
was
everybody should be lucky it was you and not me
that was a
that this
total
happened to because you would have been a hot mess calling all the people.
yes, yes. And I've often thought about that. When I was talking to my one of my aunts, and we were talking about some of this stuff, and she
Sorry.
said, "Could you imagine somebody elderly going through this?" I was like, "No." Like my grandma who's 90, 91. She's like, "Could you see her going through this?" I was like, "Hell no." 'Cause her attention span and mine are pretty close. But I don't know. I often think that it I keep telling the kids that when we get talking about it and we're talking about all the other dumb stuff that I've done where I shouldn't be here. Like when you look at the amount of near death instances I've had, I shouldn't be here, but I'm here. I get to this situation, and if it had been untreated, I wouldn't be here.
Right. Like, I think often, like, and I think this. We were lucky you had an outward area of concern with your arm.
Yeah.
Like, we saw it, we knew something was wrong. If we didn't have that, you didn't have a mole, you didn't have an area in your skin that looked weird, you didn't have a concern that we could visually see except for that lymph node.
Right.
So I think we should be grateful that it is showed there and it wasn't like something that was more internal. Like if that would have grown, I mean,
Well,
I'm just
so
gonna guesstimate. Like for this lymph node that it grew out of your body, if it would have grown inward,
yep,
and we didn't see that, this could have gone on until.
yep. When I was talking to a buddy, a YouTube buddy, who's um, become a pretty good friend, um, he had bout of bladder cancer, and he went in. He's just like, I'm going to the bathroom a lot, da 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 da. Went through the symptoms, and they said, dude, you've got like 8 tumors on your bladder. They removed 8 tumors. And over the course of like 8 surgeries, they end up removing 18 or 19 tumors. And that's in your bladder. You don't see that.
Right.
There's no way to know that's there.
Like if that was you, we would just think it was your sugar being uncontrolled, and we would have made an appointment.
Yeah, and I would have went to the family doctor, and
You know,
they would have ran tests,
like
and and said, oh yeah, this might have been bad, but and then you got to jump through the hoops of what the insurance says you have to go through instead of like you can't miss a step.
I wouldn't have made you go to the ER that night if your behavior wasn't so drastically weird.
Yeah.
So,
And
like maybe if your tumor grew like round, what if your tumor was more straight and it wasn't putting so much pressure on your brain? Like we wouldn't have known. It wasn't growing out of your head. You
right.
didn't have a sore spot on your head. You
And
didn't have anything.
that's what's scary.
And I'm just like, gosh, I'm really grateful. But I also play on the other side that, gosh, if we would have thought this thing in your arm in December of 2020, 2021, if it wasn't just thrown up into, oh, it must be a weird COVID thing,
Yeah.
then maybe we wouldn't have had a tumor in your brain. But I don't know, and I can't go and think that way because it doesn't help.
Yeah. And
But
and I tell the girls this all the time that we call it Dad 101 because one just got out of college, one's in college, and one's looking to go the next fall. So it's Dad 101, and this is all the stuff that I think they need to know before I go. Like we had them, they were kind of mad at me because I went and got them they were taking naps. And I went and got them and had them come down, and we had to pull the stove out because we had a burner. The relay was messed up. So whenever you turn the burner on low,
and this was a while ago.
yeah, this was quite a while ago. This is just part of Dad 101 stuff. Um, so I had them come out. I'd never done this before either, but I gave them the screwdrivers and I supervised and told them how to do it, and they did it. And because it was them being witness to it, you know, cleaning cast iron and stuff like that. They've learned that. They've learned to change tires. Pull the tire off. We had to plug a few tires. The the middle one came home to one time and she's like, "Hey, I got a flat." Well, okay, let's go take a look at it. She jacked it up. She pulled the tire off.
I think she could do it by herself. She doesn't
She
need
can.
help. Yeah.
She can. And we pulled it out over and found the leak and plugged it, pumped it back up, and she's good to go. The youngest one, she's changed the tire. The middle one thinks she can do brake pads, so we'll see about that one because disc brakes aren't so bad. But that's kind of the stuff that Dad 101 deals with, and adversity, because I mean, Lord knows I've been through a lot, and
Lord knows you put us through a lot.
yep, and then looking at things in a different situation or different light, where the one's having a problem with a friend, and it's like, okay, well, and it's not your problem, it's the friend's problem with another friend. Well, okay, well, don't interject yourself, but look at that friend doing this, the other friend's doing this. Which do you see as right? Well, both of them are wrong. Well, okay, well then you know where you need to stand, kind of thing. So Dad 101 is kind of like the kind of cover the reason why I'm still here. We had one of the girl's friends.
Sorry.
She had a problem with her tire, and I said, okay, we'll look at it. And the kids, both my younger two, got the air compressor out there. They got the tire patch kit, and
Oh, and we've known this little one since kindergarten.
yep. And she didn't. She's working. She's like a waitress, so she doesn't have lots of money to go buy a new tire. And it was just a plug. You buy the little patch kit for $5 or $6. You go to the man down the street, and it's $6 cash, $10 cash, whatever, and done. But she didn't know that, and for her to go to one of those places, she doesn't know what she's doing, so they're probably going, take her for a little bit more. So I told her, I was like, here, this is how we do it, and she did it. That's part of Dad 101. I completely forgot where I was going with that, but that's why I keep telling them that's why I'm here, because once there's nothing left for me to teach them, that I've shared all my information, then it's okay. Which is kind of, now that I think about that statement, it's rough because with the things going on in my brain, I forget half of what I knew.
Right.
so then, uh-oh. But I don't know. It's done a lot of good things for us. Um, Made us look at things in a different light,
Mm-hmm.
not take things for granted.
It made us slow down.
Very much slow down. Very much.
I've always liked to go, 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 go. And now I like to stay home.
Yep. And we're planning not just things to do, but not functional, but memorable things
Mm-hmm.
to do. And it may not be like, going to the Grand Canyon.
Although that would be cool.
Right. But you know, we might plan a trip back to Ohio around family.
Yeah.
Like maybe for Thanksgiving or something. It's just hypothetical, I don't know. But something where we're around family. Or, a trip to Atlanta where we're around family and some friends. And, you know, that's the kind of trips we're looking at taking. Or, you know, not like the Carnival cruise, which would be fun. It would be fun.
We could do that.
But the
I don't know
more,
how, but we could do that.
kind of create more memories. You know,
One to make, we talked about taking a day and just doing something to make a memory. Whether that is, going.
and
I'm not a big hiker
it's
because it
not
makes
just
me sick, but
not just doing the event, but we also have to capture it like pictures or a YouTube video or something like that, to where when we went up to Pace College, and she it was our orientation week,
yeah.
and
Is it orientation or is it the open house.
Might have been the open house. One of them we went up, and she stayed for 2 nights in the dorm,
Orientation.
and so she was like, what do they call it, cat camp or something like
No,
that.
this was just the dorm. This was just orientation, babe.
So she had she had to stay in the dorm for 2 nights. Well, we stayed at the casino,
Hmm.
and I I've been to a casino.
I had never.
I don't really remember being at the casino, but I vaguely remember it. But that was back in my younger days. But anyway, so we were at the casino, and we just kind of documented the whole, walking around. We hung out in the casino the whole time. We didn't go anywhere else.
Mm-mm.
We had a cooler full of sodas and waters and Gatorades, and we had food court down there. We had a bag full of snacks, so we were good. And we just kind of hung out. And then there was a pool there, but it was raining, so we didn't go to the pool.
Mm-mm.
Um, that that day, or so we got in. I don't know, whatever. Say Friday night. Then Saturday, you had to be back at the college to do all the walk around and stuff
Mm-hmm.
with her. So I hung out in the hotel. It was just me chilling and relaxing, man, living it up. If I had a robe on, I was wearing the robe, but I didn't have a robe. Just like the robe and fuzzy slippers in the movies. Yeah,
Okay, I would have loved to have seen that.
yeah, but I didn't have a robe, so I was just in my underbridges. But so we just hung out, and then we just that's kind of stuff that I'm looking at. She's like, don't video me, and I was like, at the end, you're kind of appreciative because you can look back and see that, and that's what kind of when we did a trip to Edisto. We My buddy and I were judges for the barbecue competition down there, and we went down and we hung out for the weekend. Friday night, Saturday night, and then came home Sunday morning, and that was a great time. And we documented that, so it's something you will always have, the kids will always have, and my buddy will always have that. If something come up, and um, so anyway, I'm trying to do more stuff like that, so you have more positive um, things to look back on, and not so much the negative.
There's a lot more positive than negative.
Yeah, but when you think about, like we've known so many that have not been um, as successful in their journeys,
Mm-hmm.
and it's always with whenever somebody's talking about it, it's always with a heavy heart, or there's a sadness and you don't want to talk about it, and because you remember kind of going through all the bad, and that's what I don't want. And that's what I try not to do. So there's days where I'm like today, I would have been happy just to be like, you know what, I'm done. I need to start over, and lose myself in a quiet room with my earplugs in and just try to finish my book.
I get that.
But yeah,
And tomorrow's a new day.
absolutely, and that's what and the other day, the sun will come out tomorrow. I started singing that, and Cub looked at me and she said, "Where did that come from?" I was like, "I don't know. I must be having a moment because I needed to hear that, Um, but on a lighter note, our friend who's going through stuff is doing pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, We have another lady that we were blessed to meet before her journey started again. This is her second round of breast cancer, and she's handling the chemo really well.
Mm-hmm.
She's posting pictures and
Well, and you know, someone we vaguely know, like an acquaintance from years ago, just started her
yeah,
breast
and
cancer
she's
journey, and
yeah,
she is inspirational to see how she's handling it.
yeah, because she's got a double whammy.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, so there's some stories out there, and hopefully, Cubs
I think
told
the
us,
stories are more prevalent than you think. So if you think that you don't know anyone, you probably do.
which leads me to the point that I read right before we came up here and hit go. 1 out of 5 people have melanoma cancer.
Hmm. May is melanoma month.
Yeah,
I think it's May.
I think it is. So I don't know what we'll be doing, but it'll definitely be black. uh, don't know what we'll do yet, but I'll come up with something. Uh, but
And I think that's that's that for today. Like
yep.
you're not feeling good, or you're not
Well,
feeling.
my headspace is
Your
kind of all
headspace is
over it.
that I'm not feeling well.
Yep.
So
Yep. My headspace is kind of all over, and it says I'm scan anxiety. It's real.
it's probably going to build
It is,
until
and
we're done
um, one
with
of
this set.
the one of the things they say to help deal with it is to scream out loud. Let it all. Try to let it out, and of course, taking the uh, taking the old axe outside and chopping some wood or trees down or something. Eh, it might work
No, that
for a
wears
few.
you out.
Yeah, and then I end up getting hurt
Then
because
you feel worse.
yeah. I mean, I think the last time I did that, I took the axe out in an old cooler and just pummeled this cooler, and I'd say into submission, but there wasn't. There was just pieces left. Um, but they say to talk about it, get it off your chest. So I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to find my space to chill out and just be, but still be present. Um, I found like today, I just kind of went to, I had to take, I went with Cub and took her to work today, and then she wanted to go early, so I dropped her off a little early, and I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go here and walk around and walk here and just meandered stores that I don't normally go to, maybe once a month or once every 3 months, whatever. Just picked a spot and just walked. Not really looking at anything, just changing the scenery, but knowing that knowing that when I got home, I needed to walk the dogs, but I was trying to justify not doing it because I just didn't feel it. But it was good that I did it because my goal is to do every other day and then maybe and work up to every day. But what I'm noticing is the closer I'm getting to scans, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it in the back of my legs. I'm feeling it mentally. Little my brain skips and they get stuck on words and uh, forget where I'm at. Not as often now. A couple times a day I'll forget what I'm doing, but it's all part of it. So as we're getting closer, next week ought to be interesting. I ought to have some good stuff to talk about. How I,
Right.
because we'll be right there. We'll be right there at the doorstep. So, but with that I think we'll get off and
Mhm.
you know check out hashtag melanoma awareness, melanoma warrior. The hashtags on Instagram. Check those out. There's some awesome stories out there. Some successful people. There's a lot of things that they tell you, like signs to look for. Which I didn't really have. Other than the lymph node, I had noticed a couple moles that had fallen off, or I'd
There was
gotten
nothing concerning.
right. I got scratched, and when it healed, there was no the mole wasn't there anymore. And that's okay, whatever. I
You
didn't.
didn't have one that went weird colored or
Yeah,
had
and that's the
a
thing is
weird border or
if you see
was
some that
bleeding or anything.
you see some that raise up or
The
get
color
big,
changes or
or if it goes from light brown to almost a black or a really dark brown, the color changes. You know, if you notice them not there, where there was, and then there's not.
or there wasn't and there is.
Yes, then it's time to look at. That's where you need to say, "Hey, man."
I need to get this checked.
And then
But
there's that hashtag, this get naked for what for the that's what the hashtag is, and it's
mhm.
a promotion that they're putting on to try to get people to go get checked. Um, as a guy, that is uncomfortable to have somebody with a.
I don't think it would be different if it was a girl, babe.
Well, I can only speak for myself.
I think I would be
To
just as
have
uncomfortable.
to have a fellow with the magnifying glass, like a jeweler's magnifying glass, and a flashlight, looking at every crevice. Fortunately, I'm not as fat as I was because I would have had to spread the rolls.
Okay, that's disgusting.
So there is a highlight, not a very good one, but yeah, that I mean he looks everywhere and doesn't even like give you a coupon for free Sunday or anything. There's no ice cream
Honey,
afterwards.
you know that he does this every day, right?
Yes, yes, but I mean I like to be treated a little bit nice, you know,
That's called a lawsuit.
a dinner or something.
That's a lawsuit.
I mean,
Anyway,
yeah, thank you.
lawsuit.
So, but all right, so I think that's all we got this week. Yeah, scan anxiety. I don't. I don't even know what I could compare it to. I mean, it's just a high octane anxiety of something of this event that scans that it's that can change your future. It's something that we didn't at first didn't think. Um, getting the MRI done, and hey, okay, they're going to check to see if everything's good. And then there's that party that says, "What if?"
Mhm.
Yeah, don't Google what if. I mean, we'd already lived it. And that was another conversation we've had was doing the Googling.
Yeah.
Um,
We talked about that last week.
yeah,
And the
yeah.
week before. So
Well, Sunday my buddy was over and we were talking about that was the first thing he did was hit Google and he's like, dude, you got 6 months to live, and I was like, what are you talking about, buddy? I'm going to bounce back in 3 weeks. What you talking about, Willis? Yeah, I'm bouncing back.
yeah, we're getting there.
I think there's the person I was isn't the person I am or gonna be. So I don't know. Maybe it's like the caterpillar and the butterfly thing.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna get off here, and you know, if you know somebody going through it, just call and say, hey, how you doing? Um, check in on them, and you know, just ask how's the health, how's your mental state. You know, uh, buy them a cup of coffee and just let them vent if they